Welcome to another edition of the Taiwan Outlook. I'm your host, Raymond Wu. On today's program, we'll have a very special guest. She's been a member of the Taiwan Parliament, and she also has played a prominent role in Taiwan's fight for more international space. We're delighted and honored to have Ms. Bi-khim Hsiao as our special guest today on the Taiwan Outlook. Bi-khim, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Raymond. It's a delight to be here.
Well, it's an honor to have you here. And let's start off by saying that, it's been about a year since you left the Legislator Yuan, Taiwan's Parliament. Do you miss it?
No.
Because?
Not really.
Yeah.
No, I think I had a very meaningful 6 years in the Parliament, two
Exactly.
terms, and
Yes.
I certainly tried my best to play the role of being a good legislator. But I think I also reached a point in which Taiwan politics became rather suffocating or depressing, and not that I'm afraid of difficulties. In fact, I enjoy confronting challenges, but I also think it's important for politicians to take a break, and quite frankly, I have really been enjoying my break from politics.
Yeah, you only been in the Parliament for 6 years, but
Yes.
you've been involved in Taiwan politics much longer than that.
Yes.
Since your day as a graduate student from Columbia. And what was your experience so far? In the past 10 or 12 years you've been involved in politics. What has been your experience so far?
I actually started out as an undergraduate student. I took a semester off from my college. I was studying at Oberlin College in the U.S. and
very nice school.
And decided to come back to Taiwan and take part in our campaign.
That was in the mid-90s?
That was the early 90s. That was
90s,
16 years ago. I'm becoming a veteran.
You were probably just a teenager back
yes,
then.
Yes, exactly. I was a teenager and,
Yes.
and rather idealistic at the time. And and while at graduate school at Columbia, I was presented with this question: do I want to spend the next 5 years of my life in the library at Columbia University, or do I want to come back to Taiwan and be part of making history?
Okay.
And I think for a young person in her early 20s at that particular juncture in Taiwan's democratization process,
Precisely.
that was a very easy question for me to answer.
It was a no-brainer, yes.
Yeah, so that's how I got started. I got involved, and indeed it has been a very interesting and dramatic period within Taiwan. And even though I've only played a minor role in this, but the fact of being part of this and being there at the key moments in Taiwan's transition towards democracy, I think is an experience that I would not regret.
Yeah.
Despite the downfalls of politics, as we all know, all the stresses, the arguments, the negative dimensions of
Yes.
politics, the confrontations, which I really don't like.
Yes.
But there have been some very rewarding moments at the same time.
What were some of them, the more rewarding moments in your 15, 16 years in active politics?
I think as a legislator, I did promote and pass some pieces of legislation, which
Yes.
is not easy given the partisanism in our legislature, as
And
we all
also,
know.
I remember correctly that DPP at the time was not a majority.
No, we were not a majority, and as such, most of the more controversial legislation generally doesn't get far. And even some of the legislation that is not political, the nonpartisan legislation, often gets ignored because it's just not political, not steamy enough. And but I have promoted some, at least from my perspective, some meaningful legislation that I don't think would have been there if I hadn't promoted. For example, I made sure, we actually drafted a law combating human trafficking, the issue of human trafficking.
That is very important, yes.
Which is a serious problem of modern slavery. And through negotiating with the government as well as the opposition parties at the time, we managed to insert a special chapter in our immigration law to prevent human trafficking, protect the victims of human trafficking, and to prosecute perpetrators of people who traffic in human beings. And I think this is a very important piece of legislation that increases Taiwan's profile on the area of human rights internationally and helps us to play a more important role in combating this global problem. I also drafted and made major changes in the Animal Protection Act. And as we all know, see, animals don't vote in this country. And they don't vote anywhere. So it's not exactly a very popular thing to do in Parliament, where we, as politicians, we generally focus on who's voting for us, who our constituents are. But I love animals, and I think it's important to put Taiwan at a level of being a more humane society.
Yes.
I also tried to promote more gender equality in our society. I played a role in promoting the anti-domestic violence law, the anti-sexual harassment law.
Okay.
I also made proposals for same-sex marriage rights. Unfortunately, that law did not.
Pass,
no,
right?
it didn't even
make it to the
agenda. No, it didn't even make it to the agenda. Okay. It got rejected right away, unfortunately. But I think
maybe you're a little too ahead of the time.
Well, I think it's important in society that we have some more progressive voices, and that we have people who are willing to take a stand on issues that issues pertaining to social justice and equality, the rights of minorities and marginalized people. And even though they are minorities and their voices are not very prominent, I think as a legislator, it's something that we all have to consider.
Yeah, Bi-khim, you and I have been friends for a long time. We've gone to a number of important international meetings, together. And I've known you as somebody who takes her work very seriously. And that also shows why you were a member of the parliament, that you were consistently rated as one of the better performers in terms of attendance, in terms of records, in terms of voting patterns and things. But we also remember that back in I think 2007, in the primary stage, when you were contestant in the Beitou district in Taipei, and unfortunately you did not win the nomination at the end. I suppose it was a very difficult time for you after spending all these years, in Taiwan politics and trying to, make some changes. For example, all the issues that you just mentioned. And when you didn't win the nomination, what was going through your head? Was that one of the more forgettable moments that you want to, forget in your years of politics here?
Well, first of all, just one correction. It was a Shilin Datong district in Taipei City.
Yes.
At the time, it was indeed a very painful moment. And I think nothing's more painful than someone accusing you of not loving your country, especially someone
questioning your patriotism.
Questioning my love for Taiwan and my patriotism. And as someone who has devoted most of my adult life to promoting Taiwan internationally, I think the fact that people actually bought the argument and that kind of slandering worked, for me it was a very painful process. But as I look back, I think I have had some painful experiences in life, and I think ultimately what's important is to turn these experiences into positive strength. And when you look back, I think it's something that, as a political activist or political fighter, that we have to confront. All these difficulties, people not trusting us, not believing us, but it's important to have the ability to face them, and nothing in life is smooth.
No problem.
There will always be bumps in my life. There might be bigger challenges ahead, whether or not I come back into politics. But I think these opportunities do provide me with the opportunity to. No, I should say these challenges provide me with the opportunity to really develop my own strength and capacity
to grow,
to look at things from a different perspective, to be more understanding of the existence of different views within my party, and to confront these issues.
Okay, well, that's good. And also, let's go back to LY, your years in the legislature. We've heard a lot of criticisms about our legislative Yuan, and about the way it's functioned, about the committee system, even with the election law, with the changing of the electoral districts. What would be the things that you think, as an insider or one-time insider in the legislature, that you would like to see changed in order to make Taiwan's legislature more efficient, more functional?
Well, I think the legislature, of course, reflects Taiwan politics in general, and our politics have become very polarized, very confrontational and divisive, which is unfortunate for our country, given the enormous challenges that we face externally. And that also presents obstacles for moving ahead in the legislature. And this is very unfortunate. So I think developing a greater spirit of nonpartisanism or bipartisanism on issues pertaining to the well-being of our people. And of course, this requires both parties to take on this responsibility. And you know, neither party can do it alone. It does require both parties to move ahead. I also think we can use more professionalism within the legislature. What I mean, politicians, we are political people. We spend half our time in the districts going to weddings and funerals and hanging out with our constituents. But we need really professional staff to help us make informed decisions on legislation. And I think the structure of the legislature or the professional staff can certainly be improved. As we look at systems within other countries, for example, the United States, where they can attract really good professional, top quality people as professional staff who do not necessarily get involved in the partisan bickering or the local politics. They can help supplement the legislature in enhancing the legislators' performances.
Enhancing the quality of lawmaking in Taiwan. But quickly, anytime soon you'll get back into active politics in terms of election?
I'm not planning on that at the moment.
But
it's not within my immediate plans.
But that can never be ruled out in the future.
You know, if you ask me at this moment in time, you know, I really don't
have any immediate concrete plans?
No, I don't have any plans. But, you know, when I first got myself involved in politics as a student, I never imagined I would become a legislator one day either. And neither did I imagine I'd be on the stage in front of hundreds of thousands of people trying to cheer them on. And, you know, there are a lot of things you cannot imagine. But I think, you know, I passionately care about Taiwan. But running for elections or even being a politician, that's not the only way I can care about my country. I think there are many different ways or many different roles that you can play. And this is something I need to think through myself. What's the most appropriate role or what's the most effective mechanism for me to serve my country?
Well, hopefully that solution will come to you very, very soon. And when we come back, we'll continue our conversation with Ms. Bi-khim Hsiao. And we're going to talk about the other passion that she has. It's about the fight for Taiwan's international space. We'll be right back.